Hello and welcome back to All About Community. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris and I am your host. When we went to break, we were talking with Chief Armstrong, Oakland Police Department. Chief Armstrong, there's a lot of talk and has been for the last couple of years almost about defunding police. I don't quite understand it, but can you talk about that and explain?
Yeah, I think there's a segment of our community that believes that funding needs to be taken away from the police department and reallocated to other services, other community-based services, as you would, to help make our community safe. And I don't fundamentally disagree with that, right? That there's a need for other alternatives to police. I think the difficulty is that this city, with this tremendous growth from over the last 10 years, growing nearly 40,000 residents, you have to have an adequate public safety response. And so having under 700 officers to police a community of 440,000 is just really challenging. But I truly understand, those that argue that there's a need for funding, for more support for alternative responses. In the city of Oakland, the fire department is currently standing up a macro program, which is a non-police response to low-level calls. So we hope that that program is successful. We'll continue to do our best to support that program, allowing us to focus on more of the violence-related calls and seeing if there's an opportunity for other calls to be handled by somebody else.
So you're saying essentially, I guess, that you still need a certain amount of funding for police activity. And that's not saying that you don't need funding for other things as well. Yeah. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I'm essentially saying that you have to make sure that you have a strong public safety police department. And I think when you have 130 homicides, when you have an increase in shootings and carjackings and robberies and thefts, it says that we have a real crime problem. And oftentimes when you hear the discussion about defunding, what you do not talk about is the crime rate in that particular community. Oakland is the most dangerous city in the state of California. So the idea that we don't need a law enforcement presence, I think, is just not consistent with the crime that we've seen in our city.
What about clean cities, like clean streets and stuff? When I drive down an area and see this blight everywhere, I mean, it's depressing. So, if I lived in the area, I'd probably want to commit a crime too.
Yeah, it is challenging in Oakland, and our public works department continues to do their best to keep our streets clean. But I think these are things that are collective responsibility, right? That we all have to take responsibility for not throwing trash on our streets, not committing graffiti and painting on buildings and creating what we see as blight and trash and debris in our community. I think we all should want to live in a safe community, but also in a clean community. But that means that we all have to do our part. There's garbage cans on nearly every corner in the city of Oakland. We need to use them.
Exactly.
Right? And if we want to paint, we should go to an art studio.
Some good old home training. Chief, in the last 30 seconds, can you just give us your best pitch in terms of what we need to do as a community to get more engaged?
Well, I think everybody needs to pay attention to what's happening, and that Oakland obviously is dealing with some issues around safety in our community, but we won't be able to arrest our way out of this. Taking people to jail has never been the right solution to address crime in the city. It needs to come from collaborative partnerships across the city where we're asking those that are part of our community to not be engaged in violence, to not commit these crimes, and to actually be a part of creating that safe community that you want your family to live in. I don't think anybody in this community wants to fear when their loved ones walk out the door. But that's what people feel right now, is fear when they see their loved ones walk out. We have to do better, but we can do it together.
We have to do better, but we can do it together. Now, that is very, very compelling statement to make. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I just wish I had more time. As a matter of fact, what I will do, I will invite you back so we can continue this dialogue about what's going on in the city of Oakland. I love the city of Oakland. It is the greatest place in the world, as far as I'm concerned, to live. As a matter of fact, too many people are coming here, but that's another issue. Again, my name is Robert L. Harris. I am your host, and it has been my pleasure to have Chief Armstrong, Oakland Police Department, as my guest. Remember this, no matter what you do, when you do it, or how you do it, in the final analysis, it is still going to be all about community. Thank you, Chief Armstrong, for being my guest.
Thank you for having me.
Good.